Welcome, everybody, to It's Grind Time. Let's talk business startup. This show has been designed to provide practical advice to entrepreneurs who are in the midst of startup. My name is Jasmine Turner, and I will be moderating the room for today. I would like to first start off by thanking everybody for being here and introduce to you our hosts, Brian Hayden and Mike McFall. Brian is the co-founder and managing partner of Heat Spring, course and podcast creator of Redesigning the End, and is an entrepreneur in residence at the University of Michigan. Mike McFall went from barista to the co-founder and co-CEO of Big B Coffee with over 250 locations and growing. He is the author of Grind, a no bullshit approach to take your business from concept to cash flow, a Forbes contributor, a TEDx speaker, and an avid entrepreneur paving the way for and making an impact for future leaders. And together, Mike and Brian teach a class at the University of Michigan called Finding Your Venture. Its focus is on entrepreneurialism as a method of solving problems and bringing value to people. It also walks a student through the stages from startup, from idea through successful launch. Excuse me. Mike and Brian look forward to bringing you their expertise during this Clubhouse event and bringing you impactful knowledge that we can all enjoy. Be prepared to bring your real issues and real problems. Mike and Brian promise to bring you their best advice and give you insight on how to improve your launch. I want to thank you guys all again for being here today. And before we get started, I want to inform everybody that this room is being recorded and that you can find this replay here on Clubhouse after the room has ended. You can also find this recording on Mike's YouTube channel. All right, Mike and Brian, how are we, gentlemen? Are we ready to get into it?
Can't
Ready
wait.
to rock. Let's do it.
Oh, all right. I'm going to pass the mic off to you, gentlemen, so you can introduce our guest for today.
Very good. Hi, Jose.
Hi guys, how are you?
That's great. Good to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into it with you. I've spent some time with your website, and this is cool. This is right up my alley. I love it. So, can you just take a few minutes here and tell us about your business and what led you to be inspired to do it, and I guess also broadly why are you compelled to take on an entrepreneurial venture and so on. Just give us a little background.
Okay. So my name is Jose Aste. I was born in Peru, mostly raised in Miami Beach area. Um, my dad and my grandfather, uncles worked in the airline industry, so we got to travel quite a bit back and forth to Peru. So kind of deeply rooted to Peru, regardless of growing up in Miami. I After high school, I got into aviation because it was kind of like a bug in the blood. A lot of family members were in aviation, and since we traveled so much, the exposure to aircraft was tremendous for me. And so I got into being an aircraft maintenance technician, avionics technician. So I worked in aviation for about 12 years after graduating, and met my wife in Miami. She's from Michigan, so we moved to Michigan right after getting married and deciding to have a family. We were, we were living in Miami at the time, but we wanted to get out of there because we knew if we wanted kids, we weren't going to fit in the little apartment we were in. So, and we didn't want to move into the suburbs of Miami because we were so spoiled with the beach, 5 miles away. So we moved to Michigan, which was actually really, really great in the long run. Continued in aviation here. I worked at LCC's aviation technology program as a lab instructor, and then I worked in Battle Creek at a maintenance, repair, and overhaul facility named Duncan Aviation. So got to be exposed and some experience on really nice private jets. What During my stay, so we've been in Lansing now. We live in East Lansing now, but we've been in Greater Lansing for about 9 years now. And during that time, up to 2 years ago, I saw that there wasn't any Peruvian restaurants in the mid-Michigan area. There was one in Ferndale. There is one in Ferndale, close to Detroit. And and forever, I've been kind of like always thinking about, oh, food truck. I would love to have a food truck. I would love to, I do have a passion for cooking, and I gained that through my family. So I kind of wanted to um, I had a dream of basically doing that, basically developing that same experience that I grew up with in the kitchen with my family around the kitchen, my mom and my dad cooking, uncles, everyone having drinks. We're just talking about everything, laughing, crying. Just that inclusiveness was always really, really something I was always passionate about and had really good memories of. So for a while, I've always been thinking and talking a little bit about, to family and friends, and man, it'd be so cool to create something like that. And it took about, yeah, in 2019, I really wasn't too, not too happy, but just content where I was. I felt like I was only using my technical skills. I really wanted to use all my skills into something. And the fact that there wasn't any Peruvian cuisine in the mid Michigan area really, really helped me kind of develop that, not confidence, but just the motivation to create something like that I was longing for a while. And luckily, I had some close friends that I used as mentors. And I remember talking to one of my friends. He, when he asked me like, "Why do you want to do this?" When I said, I want a Peruvian restaurant here. There's no Peruvian restaurant, and I think I got a good shot at this. I believe I do. And then my friend kind of challenged me and was like, "Is that it? Is that why you want to do this?" So I thought a lot about it, and I talked to. He actually said, go home and ask a really close friend or your wife, and have them just kind of like make a list of the things that they love about you. And I did that, and everything that came back was my love for people. So I thought about that a lot, and that's where I really, really gained some, like, way more confidence and believed more in my own abilities, specifically my interpersonal skills. So that is basically the reason why, one of the biggest reasons why I started Tantay. It was because I love people. I'm genuinely curious, interested in people, and I love I love the fact that I believe I have the ability to bring people together. So that's one of the reasons why I ended up with bringing out Tantai. I basically my mission is to bring people together, but using Peruvian cuisine, which is my heritage and culture, and at the same time sharing that heritage and culture and history of our menu items. Um, so I started my LLC in 2019. Um, I started by doing in-home private dinner parties, and what I the reason why I did that was because I kind of wanted to hit a couple birds with one stone. Not only sharing my culture, my heritage, and like through 5-course meals. I would do like 5-course meals in home private dinner parties. I'd say invite 10 to 12 friends, and basically I'll bring pots and pans, everything like in Tupperwares, and I would cook 5 meals, serve pisco sours, and just talk about my vision, my goals, and also just ask questions of what they're looking for in a town like East Lansing, the greater Lansing area. So I learned a lot from there, and at the same time just gained some capital so that I can get my certifications, my licensures, so that I can get into an incubator kitchen. So so yeah, my business is called Tantay. Tantay is a word in Quechua, which was the native language of the Incas, and it means to bring people together. When I started my business at this incubator kitchen, it's part of the Allen Neighborhood Center. It's a big community center here that does a lot for the community. And I went to work and listened and asked questions, and um, and really kind of really put in the work to to do what Tantai means, is to bring people together. So I did this I opened my business right before the pandemic, and the pandemic really exposed a lot of things in the restaurant industry. So I went to work and I decided that I wanted to create a business that is rooted in people. Um, and that's not only, clients, but also my team. Um, my goal is to provide livable wages, if possible. Try my best to do that, and then also locally source as much as I can in season. So that's kind of like what my business
Super cool.
model is right now.
Yeah, well, let me just say, I mean, I love your brand. I absolutely love the brand. I went to obviously the website, and I love the word. I love the meaning behind the word. I love the graphics that you put together for the brand.
Thank you.
It's instantly when I hit your website, I was like, oh, cool, right?
Thank
And
you.
that's what you're trying to do with the brand, right? Is you're just trying to get somebody to say, oh, cool, and then they want to
Hmm.
learn more, they want to engage more. So, I do, I love it. And your story is just really compelling. The food is beautiful. I mean, the
Thank you.
food is beautiful. You go to the menu gallery, and I'm scrolling around in there, and it's just, I mean, it's striking. So really, really am impressed with your start here. I think it's great, and I want to get into some tactical stuff, and one question I have to start is, so you're doing these dinner parties, and you've got customers paying you to come and do the in home parties. Is that
Yes,
where the revenue's coming from?
that's how I started. I
Okay.
started because I didn't want to, because at first, I had, when I would share, my goals with Tantay, especially at the beginning, it was a lot of like, oh, get yourself a brick and mortar, get yourself a food truck, get yourself this.
Right. Yep.
And in my mind, I was like, okay, but where am I going to get money for all this?
Right.
And luckily, I was in a position to. Already a pretty patient person, so I knew that it was going to take me at least 2 years to get a brand going. But I had a lot to learn because I was in the aviation industry,
Right. Right.
so I was never really had a lot of experience in the restaurant industry.
So are you generating revenue in a different way right now other than the in-home parties?
Yes, so the in-home parties were kind of just like at the beginning.
Okay. So
So
what's
right
what's the
now,
revenue coming from now? Yeah.
so I have a restaurant space at the Allen Neighborhood Center. It's a shared kitchen. It's called the Kitchen Accelerator Kitchen. So it's designed to have like a little restaurant space, and then kind of cut those costs at the beginning, share it to give us a little bit more wiggle room. So I have a little restaurant space. We do takeout, we do dine in, and then during the pandemic, through the community center, we got a chance to work with the MSU Product Development Center, so that we can sell packaged items at the new Capital City Mire in downtown. So that's another revenue stream for me. I stock two different salads, a gluten-free vegetarian one and a vegan salad at the Capital City Mire in downtown Lansing.
Cool. Cool. Um, Brian, did you want to start with anything in relation to the story?
Man, mostly I want to echo a lot of what you already said. I'm inspired by the mission, love the brand. I'm on the website, and yeah, the food is stunning. Your story is, compelling. I love that you have been fundraising through sales by selling to customers instead of trying to go raise a bunch of money. Um, I love the story about the getting advice from friends and kind of like having thoughtful input from people in your life to help you kind of like see what you might not be seeing. So yeah, I
Can
feel
you
like
can
a lot
you
of that.
can you expand a little bit on? I mean, I think I know what you mean, but I think it'd be useful for you to expand on the point of the capital raising through revenue.
Mm,
Instead of going out and raising money.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think that. Were you saying like me expand on it
Yeah,
or
yeah. If you could, right? Yeah,
sure?
just your philosophy on that.
Yeah. So early on in a company's lifespan, people are looking for money to, make investments in the business, and also validation. for that they're on the right track or have a good idea. And so those two things lead people to want to raise money from investors early. And I feel that in most cases it's a mistake for a few reasons. One is that it takes a ton of time, and it's time that you're not spending talking to customers, which I think is the most important place to spend your time early on. But then also, the most businesses don't really have. There's not a whole lot of compelling value for investors, because maybe the business, it has to grow really fast in order for investors to get paid back.
Yes.
So, and once you raise the money, the pressure to deliver that return for investors becomes, in many cases, overwhelming and distracting. So, I always advocate for businesses to start by coming up with a different type of product that's simpler to deliver, and raise money that way, which is exactly what you did. And I think that's really cool. So way to go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mike, I do have a bunch of questions, both for you and for Jose. I'm interested in hearing from you. When you think about a single location, um, what are the basics of marketing that, I guess I'll start with Jose. Like, Jose, how are you thinking about marketing for your business? How are you getting new customers? And then I would throw it over to Mike to think about, your experience with Big B. What are just like the 101 basics you got to be doing to market a location like this?
So right now, you know, ideally, so this is a shared kitchen, so I'm kind of limited on menu innovation. For instance, we don't have a fryer in our kitchen, and we have a big time baker in our kitchen, and another Korean stir fry business and a smoothie business. So I in terms of getting people in the door, it's kind of been a little because we're kind of hidden a little bit. But I focused on takeout a lot, especially because I opened up my business right before the pandemic. So during the pandemic, it was kind of a little scary working in a kitchen incubator. That was even before the kitchen I'm in now. The kitchen that I'm in now is more like a restaurant space, and I've been doing this for a year, just a year. Um, and in terms of marketing, just kind of really, I've so Peruvian cuisine is what I had. What my product is Peruvian cuisine. It's very balanced. The one of the biggest pillars of Peruvian cuisine is our farmers, agriculture, and and being in the neighborhood that I'm in, which is the East Side neighborhood of Lansing. There's a lot of urban farms here, so I got to work and kind of was looking where certain trends were in the market, especially during COVID. And I saw that there was a rise in plant-based, and then also, like gluten-free items. So I first wanted to focus on menu innovation and just keep it simple. Like that's just basically everything that I've read and hearing and from mentors is just keep it simple and try not to reinvent anything. Just keep it as simple as possible. So in my little kitchen, I try to basically kind of like just use the same ingredients and expand them through my menu to limit waste and all that. But my menu item really was kind of like my marketing. I kind of saw it as like my biggest marketing tool so that I can, because I need people to eat it. I want people to eat it and especially try a different cuisine that they've never had before. So, in terms of marketing, I kind of like first really wanted to focus on my menu, and then from there, also, in season, we try really hard to locally source a lot of ingredients, and especially in the same neighborhood that we are through urban farmers. Um, and so in terms of marketing, that's how I first, that's the first, like kind of like the focal point that I had. And then going into our restaurant space, that's when I kind of like started to do my website our logo, our mission, and kind of like just tell a story. And I think a lot of the marketing comes in when people come and dine in, or when I'm here to greet them or to give them their food. I always try to just capture them and just hold on to them for a little bit and kind of explain our story, because that's what I feel like is has been something really kind of important, and something that a lot of people are liking is like basically the storytelling of my business and myself.
Yeah, Jose, are you keeping track of a database of your customers that you're selling to?
Yes, as soon as I got into the accelerator kitchen last year, I purchased my POS system through Toast. So I looked into it and I saw that Toast had so many capabilities. So that's my POS system. We have an email list, and I track basically our sales through there.
Yeah, what I would suggest is um, trying to get a little bit more intimate with the customer than just email.
Hmm.
And so, you've got a dynamic personality, dynamic story. I don't know you, but I somehow I have a high degree of trust for you right now. Like
Uh-huh.
somehow you've convinced me to trust you in a matter of 20 minutes, which is an amazing strength. And so one thing that we did very early on in our business is we became obsessed with getting and building our customer list, right? Our database, and that included not only email, but it also included physical address and phone number, right?
Hmm.
And we did that from very early on when we were selling 300 drinks a day. We were obsessed with how many new customers we could add to our database. And then what that allows you to do is it allows you to engage them in a personal way, right? So you could begin to mail out a monthly recipe, or you could send them gifts around Peruvian holidays, or celebrating some Peruvian event, and you send them maybe some kind of a sweet dessert in the mail, or whatever it might be. And really building that following where they're living this story with you. Start to build a story around the development of your business and include them in that story, right? And so when you do advance, and when you have accomplishments, you can share them with that group. And you can do it via email, but I'm a huge advocate of good old fashioned U.S. postal mailing, right?
Roger.
And Zingerman's here in Ann Arbor. It's a $65 million a year business. It's enormous, right? I get so much stuff from them in my mailbox at home, and I love it.
Hmm.
Right? I mean, I'll sit there and thumb through a catalog they send me, or they send me invitations to special events that they're doing, and I look at every single one of them and I see if I can go. And so I would really recommend that. We started that early on. I think we should be. I'm certainly hopeful we're going to eclipse 1 million members in our database this year. I think we're at 900, and last time I checked it was like
Wow.
930,000 people in our database. And that is, to me, we don't do as much anymore with the physical mailings and so on. We did for many, many, many years. We would send people birthday cards on their birthday, right? And give them a free drink on their birthday. And we still do that. It's through electronic means now, but we used to send out like a really cute little birthday card, and with a
Hmm.
free drink attached to it. And you could do that, right? And then they stop in for their birthday and they get a free dessert or whatever. So I think that sort of really intimate touch in the restaurant business, in our space, in your space, I think it's critical. And if you just depend on email as the methodology to communicate to your loyal customers, that's how everybody does it, right? There's nothing special
Yeah.
there, and
Right.
and I don't click through emails ever. And even from brands that I love, I don't click on their emails. But when I get a personalized note from you or from the folks, let's say at Zingerman's, which is a huge business, I love it. I just think it's great. So that's one thing that I would really encourage you to do. Is it's a lot of work. I mean, it is a ton of work to manage that, but it's incredibly effective.
Those are
I love
great
that. I
ideas. I
love
really
that.
appreciate it.
Real quick, guys, I think that was some really great advice, Mike, with the immediate touch and connecting on that emotion. Before we take a deeper dive into that, I'm going to do a really quick room reset. Um, before we dive any further, I want to thank everybody for joining us. I do see we have a couple of people down in the audience, so thank you guys so much for joining us today. I want to inform you that if you want to engage with Mike and Brian elsewhere, you can connect with them on our Linktree link that is pinned at the top of the stage here. So feel free to join them on all other socials. You can find Mike at grindthebook.com, or you can go to findingyourventure.com as well. And I will let you guys take the mic.
Yeah, I want to make sure that we put a flag in next to the word marketing. Um, Jose, I listened to you tell your story for 20 minutes, respond to our first few questions. Every single one of your responses was so impressive. But when we got to marketing, when I asked about marketing, you talked about your product, and then your website, which is really kind of an extension of your product. And you can't be amazing at everything. And so my feeling is this could be a place where, you know, uh, I'd look for some help or look to kind of like shore up how you're thinking about this, because I do feel like most businesses, the reason that they don't succeed is because it just ends up costing them too much to acquire customers. And I think you can do a lot through your menu innovation. I think you can do a lot with your website. But man, having a lot of thinking around marketing, and more proactive approaches to finding customers, I think is just going to be so important so that you don't suffocate as a business.
Absolutely. So as of recently, I hired basically a marketing manager with myself, and it's been stuff that the past month and a half we've been really tackling the marketing spot, because that is something that we have been lacking for sure. And that being said, we're in we're like about a week out until our website will change. It'll be more easier to navigate, more in your face is what we're thinking. We have the mindset of we have 15 seconds for the people that are visiting our website. So it's going to be, instead of clicking on something and then something else to put an order, you can just immediately do it on the first page. So we are definitely, hitting the books and podcasts on how to create an awesome, to deliver a huge marketing for our business. So I really appreciate everything you guys are saying right now.
Yeah, Mike, I'd be interested to hear a little bit about PR, sort of like a low budget strategy for PR, because I'll say, having listened to all the How I Built This episodes, I'm thinking about the Chipotle episode. Like, there's all these restaurants, and it's always some PR event that like just takes them from, like a very small, beloved, thing to a really well known and scaling operation. So I'm curious to hear about what you would advise
Yeah,
on PR.
no, it is. The nice thing about concepts like Tante is that people want to know more. They want to learn more, and so presenting yourself and your story and so on. If you can get places where you get to tell that story, it's powerful, right? And so, approaching PR from the perspective of getting on podcasts locally, and it's not an easy game to play though, right? Like it's hard to get recognized, but you're doing something special here, and I think people would love to hear your story. I would advocate um, developing. One note I made is there's something here around telling the Peruvian story, right? And and diving a little deeper into that, into the history and of Peru itself, right? So, I don't know if you know a restaurant in East Lansing called Altu's. It's an Ethiopian restaurant.
Oh yes, I love it.
Oh, it's the best, right? And
Yes.
so Altu, I used to go there, 3 times a week, and Altu is just a beautiful, special person, right? I don't know if she's still doing this now. I haven't been in East Lansing, and I haven't been to Altu's in probably over a decade now since I moved out. But it is. What I used to love is she would come up to our table, she would talk to us, she would tell us about Ethiopia, she would tell us about her story, and I just that just made the experience so special. And I would go and I would learn about Ethiopia, right? I mean, I love the food, but that made it even more special. And I would talk to other restaurateurs in ethnic restaurants that you know uh, how did they get recognized, right? How did they build that brand? I mean, she started as this tiny little hole in the wall, right? And then it grew and it expanded, and she would be somebody that would be, I think would be a great person to talk to about the development of her restaurant, her brand, her, what she did with it, and so on.
Thank you. Thank you. I will definitely, I'm considering that already, and it's right around the corner from us, so it's perfect.
Yeah, yeah, and she's such a special person. And one idea I had from a branding slash marketing PR perspective, this is one thing that we did that worked really well early on, and that was we branded our individual products with names that were fun and exciting, and it differentiated us in the marketplace. And so, I look at your products and they're so beautiful, and you know, taking an individual product and applying a brand to it, right? Its own brand for that particular item. Like I just heard yesterday that we're developing a new hockey team, and it's in a different category, a different league, and so, than our existing teams, and they're going to call themselves the Sugar Bears, right? The Sugar Bear is a drink inside of a real popular drink inside of Big B Coffee. And like one of the parents loves the Sugar Bear. And so they're going to call this hockey team the Sugar Bears, right? But my point in telling you that story is the Sugar Bear could be called a caramel hazelnut latte, right? That's what
Yeah.
it is. But in a better example in our world is our caramel marvel is a caramel latte. A lot of coffee shops called it the caramel macchiato, or some sort of affected Italian term, right? That
Hmm.
nobody cares about. But the caramel marvel is like it's like a superhero flying through the air with a cape on. And so like really, I would think about taking some of your core products and developing them as brands themselves, even very early on, so that people walk in and they order it with this fun, energetic name. And it could be from Peruvian folk tales, and then you get to tell that story, right? So this salad, it could be called the beet salad, or it could be called like some Peruvian folk hero, right? And then next thing you
Hmm.
know, you're talking about some Peruvian folk hero, and people are like captivated by the story, you know. And so
Yes.
it was another idea I had, in terms of how to differentiate yourself, how to bring attention to your products. Anyway, so um, and then working hard to one thing that we always did is we always, whenever we go into a new market, we would always go to the media stations, right? And we would deliver product, and we would give away product. We'd take them coffee in the morning, we'd take them bagels, and so on and so forth. Maybe try that for a bit, right? And
Absolutely.
and get them to sample the food. And if you can get an on-air host to sample a Peruvian a lunch and talk about it on the air, like, fantastic. And after you do it for a while, honestly, what happens is they invite you on the air. It was like the most intimidating moment of my career. I was in Grand Rapids. We just opened. We had one store there. We just opened, and I was delivering, lattes to radio stations in the morning. And all of a sudden, one day, one of the hosts was like, "I want to get that guy on here." And so next thing you know, I'm live on the radio. I'm in the cold sweats, right? Like I'm panicking, but I mean, it was just free airtime, and a lot of times that's how you got to get that done.
That's right. No, I'm jotting all this down. These are really good ideas. I really appreciate this.
I just want to mention I was having a long conversation with a friend from Boston who's on the board of a company called Clover, and they describe themselves interestingly as like an omni-channel food brand, and they started as a restaurant. And I'm interested in their thinking around what that means. I mean, I don't, to some extent, I'm sure it's hype, but it's kind of this concept, uh, kind of leading out of the pandemic, to build resilience into a food concept. So there's like restaurants, but there's also subscription delivery, and then grocery. Um, anyway, I just wanted to mention that before I forgot about it, in case you hadn't heard about that.
Thank
And
you.
Clover isn't Clover a point of sale system?
It might also be that. I think that might be a separate system.
Okay.
When
Sorry. Go ahead.
when you say omni, you mean like for instance, like if Tantay were to be like omnidirectional, like we're serving drinks and food and possibly something else. Is that what
I
you
think
mean?
it's, well, omni-channel is kind of is what they want it to be, and so that's just meaning to be you can buy from them anywhere at any time is kind of the
Oh, okay.
thinking, instead of so while you're at the actual physical location sitting down, you can order. Then there's takeout, then there's delivery through subscription, and then they make, I think, ingredients and have grocery. So they're trying to think of themselves as more expansively than a restaurant. I don't know if that's interesting, but given that you're starting, in people's homes with,
Hmm.
with grocery, you seem kind of like open to that concept, and I think that it's an interesting one.
Well,
And
I
I just
think
wanted to
that
put it on your radar.
that is, I mean, sending people, like when you get people to give you their physical address, you could put recipes together, and in the recipe put a few Peruvian spices, or with it, so they could make the dish themselves, right? And
That's a
and
great idea.
and it doesn't cost you anything to package up a bit of spices for them to make. They got to go buy the rice at the grocery store, and they got to buy the beef, and they got to buy the vegetables at the grocery store. But if you sent them two or three spices that are included in that recipe, all of a sudden it's like, this is cool. Like,
Yeah.
what a great way to build loyalty with your brand in that customer.
Yeah, I the whole I appreciate you guys kind of seeing that little hint of the Omni channels because at first when I started this, I was like, I want one brick and mortar, but since I've been working in a shared kitchen, it's kind of and during the pandemic, it's kind of shown me that we can dish out a lot of food in just this little spot, and it's really led me to believe that we might have even instead of one brick and mortar, as the first goal is why don't we put a little like little shops of Tantai, strategically around town and offer spices. One of our goals this year, we I'm working with a local farmer and they produce harvested ají amarillo peppers. These are native yellow Peruvian peppers, but basically my business depends on. So one of my goals is to have my own farm of yellow Peruvian peppers so that I can use with with all of my dishes and have enough so that I don't have to depend on a kind of a supply chain because that was a little tough during the pandemic and a little scary getting yellow Peruvian peppers was pretty tough for me since there's no Peruvian restaurants here. So that's definitely one of the things I'm looking into the future is, sourcing my own peppers locally and then putting that on my brands would be huge. And then possibly get into, my own, who's to say that I can't make, a sriracha sauce, but that's like a sriracha sauce, but like made out of our Peruvian peppers. So I'm glad that you're, kind of, you guys are putting this more in my mind.
Well, I
You know,
think that. Go ahead,
you,
Brian.
yeah. One of the things I was thinking about is I feel like there's so many concepts that I've seen where they have a little bit of success, but then as they scale, it kind of like doesn't work. I'm curious, Mike, to hear you talk a little bit about some of the infrastructure that needs to get put in place, maybe like vendor relationships, um, that would enable you to go from like maybe working out of a shared kitchen and doing some delivery and grocery to having a bigger operation. What might some of those blind spots be?
Well, I think the thing that we did that was um, it really worked for us is we stayed incredibly focused at the beginning. I mean, and I say at the beginning, I'm talking the first 15, 20 years, we stayed incredibly focused. And what we wanted to be was we wanted to be the best beverage retailer in the marketplace. And that's all we did for the longest time. And, it was, we didn't try to be all things. A lot of coffee shops were, um, they got into other lines of business, right? They got into trying to sell wine, or they would develop their lunch menu, and they would do all these things that added a lot of complexity to the business. And, I think what we understood pretty quickly was people were coming to us for a product, and that was what we refer to as the sweet bomb latte, right? And that's a latte with a whole bunch of flavor and whipped cream, and that was it. That's why people were coming to our stores. And so we really, really focused in on that, and we made our business about that, right? And so, you know, um, Peruvian restaurant is a pretty, I know there aren't any in Lansing, but it's a pretty broad brushstroke, right? Like what does that mean? And so, I would really advocate defining that for people, right? What am I going to get when I get to the Peruvian restaurant or when I buy the Peruvian takeout? What does that mean for me? And thinking about the Ethiopian food, I mean, one of the things about the Ethiopian food that was interesting and special was is you ate it without silverware. Right, you ate it with
Hmm.
your hands, and I mean that's a little kitschy, but I think that's one thing that I would recommend. The other thing that we did, which fell, and in the end looked brilliant, but we did go into our vendors and we negotiated long-term deals with performance criteria attached. And so, when we walked into our coffee roaster and we were buying something, like 4,000 pounds of coffee a month. Um, and then we went in and said, "Hey, listen, we want to put a deal together where we're going to get this pricing and that pricing and that pricing based on scalability. And when we cross 200,000 pounds, we're going to be at this price." And like the vendors, like, yeah, okay, whatever,
Hmm.
sure, we'll give you that pricing when you cross 200,000 pounds. But then, we started scaling, we started growing pretty rapidly, and we ended up crossing those thresholds, and then we negotiated different thresholds. And so, going into your vendors and approaching them from the perspective of, um, that we're going to grow this business, right? It gives them a lot of confidence that you're in it for the long haul. You're going to be growing the business for a long time, and so on. So that was really important. And then the other thing that we did early on was we branded a lot of products.
Okay.
And so, like, when you give out takeout, are you putting it in Tantay bags with that beautiful logo, right? Do you have napkins with your logo on it? And we did that early, and it was hard. That was a really difficult part of the business because we had to pay for all that up front. Right. And so, no one was going to bet on us. And, to do a logoed cup, you had to order, I don't even know what it was, a quarter million of them or something like that, right? Well, a
Hmm.
quarter million times 5 cents is, I mean, that's a big check, right?
Yeah.
And so, but like, you can buy a stamp and you can stamp bags, right? And that's free. I mean, it's going to cost you $19 for the stamp. And so, you know, uh, getting your brand in front of people. Let that bag sit on their kitchen counter after they takeout home, and it's going to sit there for a couple of days, and that's what you want, right? And so that's another thing that we did early on. We used to call it designer trash. And
Okay.
a buddy of mine still tells a story about how I was walking through East Lansing, and I set one of our cups on top of a trash can, and he reached over and put the cup in the trash can. And I reached back in the trash can, I put it and pulled it out and put it back on top of the trash can. I'm like, no, I want that logo sitting right there, right? Like
Wow.
the point was that everybody that walks down the street is going to sit and see our logo sitting there, right? And so we used to call it designer trash, and so I think those are some of the things that we did early on when we were just getting started, and we were super small and struggling, and I don't know if that answers your question or not, Brian, but that's what came to mind.
Yeah, I think so. And just because of where Jose wants to go with this, and the fact that he's in Lansing, I was thinking getting in touch with Ed Harden and kind of like building out some of those relationships would be good too.
Absolutely, yeah. And
Thank
so,
you guys.
Jose, if you want me to connect you with Ed, he's president of Capital National Bank. He's really supportive of entrepreneurs, and especially in Lansing, and he would, he knows a million people, and so when you're talking about PR, he could connect you with, some people that might be able to write a story about you, or whatever. So I'd be happy to make the connection with Ed.
And
Absolutely, please.
kind of it's everybody always talks about before you need something, it's good to kind of like build relationships and kind of let people know where you're going. And so that would be an example of the right way to build banking relationships. And so when you do need money, um, you know those relationships are already in place.
Yeah, money connections. He's, I say Ed's one of the most connected people in all of Lansing, and it's true, he is. And it's because he's like the nicest, most, one of the most generous people I know, and he helps everybody out. So, yeah, I think that's right, Brian. Making those connections before you need anything from somebody, and take Ed and his staff lunch one day, right? And he would love it, and you'd start to build that relationship there.
Excellent.
I have,
I would love that. Yes, please. Any connection would help, and I'm jotting all this stuff down. So thanks, guys.
I have
Yeah,
a question
it's
for
great.
Mike and Brian. Sorry, I'm in the airport right now. I don't know if you can hear anything or not.
Yep.
Um, he's Jose is next to a big college town. How do you maximize using that as an asset towards purchasing Jose's goods?
Well, my history in working in college towns is ignore the undergrad student because they don't have any money. But they have an enormous population of professionals, right? Teachers and administrators and so on. And then they also have the grad student. The grad student has money, right? So that's what we always learned. And so, you know, uh, you could do something trite like you could brand a product around something around the university, but I think the university population, I used to just refer to it as one big massive like office park. You got I don't even know how many tens of thousands of people going to campus every day to work, and that's how I looked at it. Is they were professionals, they made good money, and they were a really a powerful economic engine in the community. And so um, there's things you can do. I would specialize, like I would support the music department, right? And
Okay.
become like really well known in the music department because that's manageable, or some, support something in the university that you're passionate about, and then build those relationships, and then you can go from there. But when you look at the university as a potential customer base, it's like it's overwhelming, because it's like a whole city, essentially. But what it does, if you were to go in and sponsor, something, and this stuff doesn't take big dollars, but you go in and sponsor an event that the music department's having. We used to just provide product. We'd go in and bring coffee and hang out and give everybody free coffee, and build the relationships inside of these individual departments. That's how we tackled it.
Yeah, and I'd recommend that department being something related to the Peruvian heritage or aviation.
Mm, yeah, that's a good idea.
That's a great idea. I this is all great because for me it's a sign of our growth, but I'm continuing another lease, another year at my current situation, the shared kitchen. But I also just purchased a food trailer, um, pretty nice sized food trailer, and I'm an East Lansing resident, so and right now in East Lansing there's talks of rezoning or just making it more accessible than in the past for food trailers. So I'm really looking forward to that, to kind of like, you know, we have a spot in Lansing, but just using those connections that I have in my own community, East Lansing, to kind of get our brand out there as well, especially to the students and just like you said, the ones that that work at MSU.
Sounds great.
Awesome, guys. Awesome. Does anybody else have anything to add? I just wanted to, if nobody has anything to add, I personally would like to just kind of thank everybody for being in this space. I know I always thank our audience, and Jose, thank you so much for being here today. This was a great conversation. We talked about marketing, branding, expansion, vendor relationships, but I do want to thank Brian and Mike for taking the time and giving this advice. I do think that this is just such a valuable space, and as we do this each week, it just continues to grow and the conversations get better and better. So thank you guys for bringing that value, and thank everybody for being here today. Jose, I hope that you got some takeaways from today's discussion, and I welcome you back to listen next week at 1 p.m. And I would like to close the room today unless anybody has anything to add, and invite everybody to come back next Thursday at 1 p.m.
Awesome,
Sounds
guys.
great.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you, Mike, Brian, Jasmine, and Max. I really appreciate it. I took a bunch of notes and just motivated. So thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Good luck, Jose, and reach out to me offline, and I'll make the connection with Ed for you.
Roger that. Thank you so much, guys. I
All
appreciate it.
right. All right. Take
No,
care now.
thank
See
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye
Goodbye,
bye.
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye
Bye.
bye.